Good morning students, welcome back to my channel. In this class, we will be learning about molecular biology. The topic we are going to discuss today is called as molecular biology. So what do you mean by molecular biology? So as the name defines here, molecular, you are studying molecular level. Like let's take an example, it's about proteins. So this cannot be seen by your naked eyes. This cannot be seen by your naked eyes. Or we can take another example of your nucleo or nucleic acids. That may be your either RNA or DNA. So study of these things, molecule, as we discuss about your physics, in case of molecules will come under molecular level, and again the molecules are made up of atoms, everything. But in case of life, everything is made up of DNA, everything is made up of proteins. Hence, in case of biology, if you want to understand the molecular level, that is nothing but your proteins as well as nucleic acids here. So how do you define molecular biology? So molecular biology can be properly defined as it's a branch of biology which deals with the study of macromolecules. See, these two can be completely called as macromolecules. These can be called as macromolecules. So we can define it as the branch of biology which deals with the study of macromolecules which are essential for life. As I told you, in case of biology, the molecular level is nothing but these two, that is your proteins as well as nucleic acids, because they make the basement for life. If a life has to originate or if has to extinguish, these two things are very essential parts. So we can define the molecular biology in the described way here. So what we are going to learn in case of molecular biology? Important concept, first one is called as central dogma of molecular biology. Central dogma of molecular biology. This is again a PUC concept which you have already learned. So what do you mean by the central dogma of molecular biology? DNA will leads to the formation of your RNA, which again leads to the formation of your proteins. Here the process of transformation or formation of RNA from your DNA can be called as transcription. Am I right? And the process of formation of proteins can be called as translation. This you have studied in case of your PUC, both the concepts transcription as well as translation. The formation of RNA from the DNA is called as transcription, or the process involved in the formation of RNA from the DNA is nothing but your transcription, and the formation of proteins from that of RNA can be called as your translation. So why this is happening? What is the need for this to happen here? So what is the need? It is nothing but transfer of genetic information. That is the main rule. Why? Why this is actually happening is nothing but the transfer of genetic information is occurring here. Here the reason is that whatever the material is found in case of DNA will be changed to the form of RNA here. So that is by the method called as transcription. We know the double helix of DNA. This double helix of DNA will be completely converted into single strand of your RNA. Again, in case of RNA, we have got different types of RNA, mRNA, tRNA, sRNA. We have got different types of RNA here. They will be responsible for the formation of proteins, or this protein formation here. So how are these protein formed? as according to the genetic information which is found in the DNA will be transcribed to RNA. That information is responsible for the production of particular proteins here. We learnt about the central dogma of molecular biology or central dogma of biology. Let's understand something about history of molecular biology. So, when we move on to the history, in the year 1930s, actually this branch was confirmed. Like, yes, we have a separate branch called molecular biology, and this branch will deal with this particular thing was confirmed in the year early 1930s. And the year 1938, it was coined by Weaver or Warren Weaver. It was coined by a person called as Warren Weaver, and he was a director. He was a director of a famous institution called as Rockefeller Institution. He was a director of Rockefeller Institution, and he was a person, Warren Weaver was a person who coined the terminology called as molecular biology. He was the person who gave a clear ideology that this is going to change the scope of biology. This field or this particular branch of molecular biology will be completely showing a new part to the biology was said by this particular person called as Warren Weaver here. He said, and sir, cut change sir. As I said, he was the director of Rockefeller Foundation. He said that this will bring about significant changes in the field of biology, like X-ray crystallography. Example, X-ray crystallography was one of these subsequent changes which led to the significant changes in the field of biology here. And according to this, as per the continuation of this one, in the year 1953, as we all know very well, so James Watson and Crick, they put forth the double helix structure of DNA. Double helix structure of DNA, along with Rosalind Franklin and his co-worker by the crystallography studies again. Crystallography studies, they confirmed the double helix structure of DNA. This led to the jump start. Andre, this I mean to that this was the main step which led to the increment or which led to the great development of this particular field called as molecular biology. So when we recall this history here, histories in 1930s, a branch was confirmed to study about this molecular biology here, and in the 1938 it was coined by Warren Weaver, and he was the director of Rockefeller Foundation, and he said that this particular branch of biology which will bring about significant changes in the field of biology like X-ray crystallography. Again in the year 1953, as we all know, James Watson and Crick, they put forth their double helix structure or double helical structure of DNA here, and along with the Rosalind Franklin and his co-worker, with the help of X-ray crystallography, they confirmed the structure of DNA, which was the greatest discovery of that time and which led to the jump start of this particular branch of biology called as molecular biology. We completed about history of molecular biology. So now we will be learning what is the actual genetic material, or before that we will learn the topic as chemical nature. chemical nature of genetic material. So if you want to understand the chemical nature of genetic material, we need to understand two concepts here. Primary, first one is called as your proteins, and second one is called as your genetic material. Okay, so we have got two different things here, namely proteins as well as genetic material here. So if you want to know about proteins, whatever the content, whatever the chemicals which are found in our body, they are normally in the way of proteins itself. So all the proteins are made up of chemicals, but all the chemicals are not protein. That's what we know about our chemistry here, and we can convey that. Oh, so where are these proteins coming from? We know a terminology called as amino acids. Amino acids. We have got around 20 different types of amino acids. In humans, we can come across up to 20 different types of amino acids, and out of these 20 amino acids, they will recombine in a different way, like A, B. Let's name them as 1 to 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 into up to 20. 1 plus 2 plus 6 will be called as one particular code, and again 2, 4, 6 one particular code, 7, 8, 9 one particular code. Like this, they will form into an coded like format. As you have learnt about genetic code in case of your second PUC, the same can be inverted here also. Here you can observe that one, all the proteins are combination of amino acids. So amino acids are called as building blocks for your proteins here. So according to their combination, they will form different types of proteins, AAA, AAB, AAC. Like this, as they combine in a various forms, they form into different types of proteins here, and each of that protein will be formed into each of the again particular functionalities, because all the functions cannot be done by single protein, or all the proteins cannot do a single function here. So each of the function will be allotted to a particular protein. If the replication has to occur, there should be a particular protein. If the removal of double helix is there, there is a presence of a particular enzyme there. There is a particular protein required for that signaling mechanism. So all the works which are happening in our body is because of the proteins itself. So what are the proteins? They are nothing but the various chemicals here. So all those chemicals are found in the form of amino acids. In case of humans, these amino acids will combine in an irrespective way or respective way to form a particular codes or codons. They will be responsible for various actions happening here. And when we come to the genetic material here, this can be commonly known as DNA as well as RNA. These are the two very commonly known genetic material which we have gone through all these years. So out of these DNA and RNA, most prominent one is your DNA. This is the most prominent one, where most of the living organisms are composed of this particular genetic material, DNA only, and only few of them we can come across with RNA, like RNA viruses. We can take the example of your RNA viruses here. They can be called as your genetic material, or the viruses will have the genetic material like RNA, and we have got the DNA as a prominent genetic material which will go on replication. So once this was discovered, so we came to know about the chemical nature here. Once this part was discovered, there was a next question like which was the actual medium for replication. So we are observing that there is a replication occurring. So let's take an example of your T4 bacteriophage. You know the structure of T4 bacteriophage. So this is your T4 bacteriophage, which is having a capsule around it for its protection, and this T4 bacteriophage will be infecting your bacterial cell here. This is the diagram for your bacterial cell which has been infected by this particular bacteriophage. We can call this as commonly known as T4 bacteriophage. This is called as your T for bacteriophage. So there arose a question, which was the actual genetic material. So we have got two chemicals importantly here. One is your protein part, other one is called as your genetic material, that is DNA as well as RNA. So there was a confusion, which was the actual genetic material. To understand this one, we have got a particular thing called as, we have got a particular experiments called as two experiments. One is the Griffiths experiment, other one is called as Hershey-Chase experiment. As I told you about two experiments here, the Hershey-Chase experiment as well as Griffiths experiment. Here firstly we will deal with the Hershey-Chase experiment. So this experiment was done by two persons. One was Hershey and Martha Chase. These were the two people who conducted this experiment, hence the name is given as Hershey-Chase experiment. So what's happening in this experiment? I'll brief you out previously. So you know about bacteriophage. As I said before, bacteriophage infects the bacteria. Once it is infecting this particular bacteria, there is a replication of this bacteriophage units. So once the bacteriophage is infecting this particular bacteria here, it will increase the number of bacteriophages inside the cell and they are getting replicated there. So they wanted to know which was the actual genetic material. Was it the protein code that was found here, that the protein code, or the DNA which is found inside them was the genetic material? So they concluded about two things. One thing, they used radioactive sulfur. They used radioactive sulfur for the protein code. They used the radioactive sulfur for protein code. So whatever the code which is found here, this was injected with that of the radioactive sulfur, and again the genetic material which is found inside was injected with that of the radioactive phosphorus. Now after they radio tagged them, they tagged with that of a marker here. The marker is radioactive sulfur for protein code and radioactive phosphorus for your genetic material here, and they tagged both of them and they allowed them to replicate or the infection with that of the bacteria. So they just infected the bacteria. Here they are infected the bacteria, and after some time you can observe that there is a increase in the phage particles. They are increased. So after this thing, they didn't observe any kind of thing present here, because they have labeled the protein here. If the protein was injected into this bacterial cell, so this is your bacterial cell here. If the protein is injected into this bacterial cell, it was usually visible, but nothing was visible, but there was formation of a phage particle. Again observe here, they actually injected radioactive sulfur for the protein code, and that they allowed this particular phage to infect the bacterial cell. As it infected the bacterial cell, there was a replication undergone and they increased the number of phage particles, but there was nothing seen in case of the bacterial cell, because that will be explained here. So again, when this was allowed to do the same thing, again this went and this was also infecting this particular bacterial cell here, but once it started infecting here, this was, or the particle which entered the cell was clearly visible. It was tagged with the radioactive phosphorus here. Once this genetic material was entered into this particular thing, it was highlighted or it was visible. Then this confirmed that there is a presence of genetic material, and that is responsible for the replicating part. Because if this thing was, let's take an example, other simple thing, we'll take it as red color. We'll take your sulfur as red color and phosphorus as green color. Okay. So if the protein was responsible, then the bacterial should have shown the red color marker. Got my point? If the protein was responsible for the replication, then the cell would have shown the red color things, but it was not shown here in case of radioactive sulfur. So the first confirmation is that the protein is not responsible for that of replication. Again, when the same thing was occurring in case of the radioactive phosphorus, when as soon as this infected the bacterial cell, there was a green color indication in the bacterial cell. So this confirmed that the radioactive phosphorus has entered into the bacterial cell. This confirms that as soon as this was confirmed, there was a normal replication. This led to the formation of more phage particles. More phage particles. So this confirmed that the DNA is the genetic material. DNA is the genetic material, yes, which was responsible for replication of the virus. This was about the Hershey-Chase experiment. Ornstein, and when we are going on to the Griffith's experiment, as I told you about the Hershey-Chase experiment, the next experiment we are discussing here is called as Griffith's experiment. What he did, he selected 2 strains of bacteria. One was R strain of bacteria that was non-virulent. This was non-virulent. It was not lethal or deadly. Not deadly. This was not deadly. So when you go to S strain, it was virulent. This was deadly in nature. So he selected these 2 strains here and he injected this strain to mice. What happens? The mice dies. The mice dies here. And when, a correction, mice alive. The mice was alive here, and when we come here again, this was injected into a mice and the mice dies here. As I said, this is a deadly strain. This will kill the mice here, but this is a non-virulent strain. Here the mice will be alive. The next thing, he will experiment in the same way. He will take the same S strain here, but he will heat kill them. He will heat killed S strain. Again, he will inject it into the mice. Again, if you observe here, what happens? The mice will be alive. The mice will be alive here because the heat killed, but even the mice is alive here. This led to a question. If the S strain is actually virulent strain, if it is killing the mice, then I have heat killed this one. Heat killing is nothing but the bacteria, microbes will be dead by heat, right? So once this is heat killed, even after that mice was alive here. Then again he will go with the last thing and he will take up with the last one, that is he will take heat killed S strain plus R strain. You know this very well. R strain is non-virulent. It will not cause any death to the mice, and he combined these 2 things, and when this was injected into a mice, again he observed that the mice was dead. The mice was dead here. So after this experiment, Griffith concluded that there is a presence of a certain material, okay, which is not killed by heat. It is not killed by heat, but once there is a heat killed strain, it has been transformed from the heat killed S strain to the R strain. It has converted, or it has transformed the non-virulent strain R strain into a virulent strain. So he says there is a transfer of something from this heat killed strain to the R strain, which made the R strain to kill this particular mice here. This process was called as transformation. And this was his experiment. In this experiment, he concluded that there is some material which is responsible for transforming the R strain into S strain, and in the Hershey-Chase experiment, we got a clear ideology that DNA or the DNA is the genetic material which is responsible for the replication here.